This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's get started, guys. So in the last class, I believe we are able to pull your, the code from a GitHub repository, and we are able to, deploy that in your web application within Azure level, right? So now let's move on with your new concept, Docker. So what is Docker and why do we require this particular Docker in here? So let me open my diagram. So generally, when with respect to any application, you have lot many features inside that. For example, think that you have an application here. So I have my application. So here, this is my application. So where this contains, multiple features. This contains, with multiple features in here. So now the only problem in here is every feature what I have, every feature should be run based upon the code level. So I have a file in here. So where this contains around like a 10k lines of code, where this particular 10k lines of code nothing but contains all the features what you're trying to go with. For example, here I have a feature one where I'll start with the first line of code and ends with my 1000 lines in here. Similarly, I have my second feature where my lines of code starts with 1000, not one or two, something like or 1500, something like this in here. Similarly, F3, and here I'm having 1501 or 2 or some 2500. So let's keep on moving, keep on going until you complete the total 10k lines of coding here. So what are these are different features of each and every application. So generally nowadays, we'll be using like Google Pay, or we'll be using your phone pay, all those things in here. So when you try to go with your phone pay or Google Pay, so you can see lot many options inside that, right? So like you can you can pay the money to some person, you can check your bank balance, you can see the reports to whom you have sent the money or from whom you have received the money. You can pay your gas bill, you can pay your credit card bill, you can pay your fast tag, you can recharge your fast tag. So all these are different kind of features are available within your particular you know application. Actually, as I told you, what I hear, every feature what you have involved in here is been used by writing in the same file in here, in one file. And using the same file, I'm trying to run all the special features in here. So if you see here, so this is my application. This is my feature one, as I told you. And let me go a little bit smaller. The feature one. Similarly, I'll be having my feature two here, and my feature. This is my different features we have in here. Feature three, or feature 4, feature 5. So these are what my different things with respect to my application here. Similarly, multiple features. So this is my total a big application where it contains multiple features inside that. Okay. So now think that I would like to upgrade my system. Okay. Or this is my this is a total big application where you have, and now I want to update my system in here. For example, I want to update one of my feature, or I want to add a new extra options for my feature of 6 what I have in here. So generally what we do, so we'll try to touch base with the lines of, we'll go to the same file where you have the code in here. We'll try to touch base with the same, the lines of code what you have in here, and we'll try to upgrade it. Suppose now I've updated some features in here with respect to my feature 3 in here. So how can you update that? So the very first thing is like to update the update the code. What I have to do, I have to stop my application in here for sure. Why? Because if you want to make anything from the this 10k of lines of code in here, I have to stop my application. I have to stop, and I have to update my file, and I have to restart it again. Correct? So here to update my the code in here, what I have to do, I have to stop application, and again restart my application after upgrading in here. So that's what I need to go with in here. So when you try to stop up such a kind of application in here, is it really good to go with the things in here? It really impacts your customers a lot. So because if you're saying nowadays a phone pay everywhere where you go phone pay, Google Pay, or Paytm. So these are the the digital transaction will be happening a lot man, in a very huge things in here. So if you are trying to stop such kind of application for 1 hour or 2 or couple of hours in here, then think how your customers have been impacted. So your customers impact like anything in here because lot many transactions will be stopped in here. So that is not a correct thing, right? So in that scenario, how can I make my things upgrade, or how can I add my new feature to my current application in an immediately manner, so without impacting my customers in here? So whatever you want to do, you have to again go and make the changes to the same file in here. So you can add more features, you can delete a feature, or you can update a feature. Whatever you do, you will try to do with the same file in here. So to have things happen, for sure, you have to stop an application, and then you have to update the code, and again you have to restart the application backend so that your updated code may reflect in your application within your web pages in here, right? So this is a really hectic part. So stopping the application really impacts my customer a lot, which is not really good. So this is first point. Second thing in here, again for the same application, so you may be having a very big database. So whatever you want to go with, okay, I want to pull my report out to whom I have sent my money. You have to go and go the things with my database level in here. And I want to pay my gas bill. Okay, I want to get my details out because probably you for the first time it may ask you what the details you want to go with in here. But second time onwards, it never ask you anything because it's already done. So your details will be stored in your database level in here. So second time directly you can go and directly pay your gas bill, or else I want to send some money to my contact details in here, some contact in here. So again, such kind of things, what are the contact details you have in here within your contact level, all those things will be put from a database. So database here, we have a one database where this database is being used for all of my features. Whatever you're trying to do in here, every feature requires a database, and that has been the supported by your single database in here. So this database has to handle so many requests coming at the same point of time in here for multiple features. So again, the performance may be degraded in this case in here. At the same time, I need to access my application, the third point. So when you tend to add up access application, from where it should start from? It should start from feature one, because when you're trying to start application, when you're trying to enter into application, the code start ready from line one, and it go to the point where you want to access your feature in here. Okay, so your entry point to application is only a single entry point here, because everything is in single line of code, everything is in single file in here, and I need to end and I need to process my things, I need to access my things using for the same one entry point. That's from my first line of my code in here. So here as well, I'm having one entry point. So here entry point is just one entry point in here. Just in case anything went wrong to my entry point in here, so what will happen? The total application will not be accessible anymore, because I just have only one entry point in here. Okay. So everything what it need to go until the feature what you're trying to go access it, it should start the reading the code from the first line in here. So you have only one entry point. So all these things, making your application, the performance is getting degraded, or there are lot much, the concerns with respect to your application in here. So in this scenario, how can I improve my performance? How can I make my customer happy? Or how can I make sure that my customer is not been impacted with the updation part, or while deploying part of new features, or deleting any the older feature which is not more required, not used by multiple people in here. So we want to make any changes. How can you make sure that your customer is not been impacted? So for that is what I do. I made a small change in that scenario. the things come, what Docker came into picture. So what Docker did is like, okay, you're saying that you have multiple features, right? So can you do one thing for me? What is that? That is nothing but instead of writing the all features, instead of having the whole all the features in one single file in here, in the same 10K lines of code in here, try to divide each feature as a small files in here. That means for the first 1,000 lines, for the feature one exclusively, I would like to create a file one, where this is the code of piece of code where I'm having a file one, where this file one handles only a feature one related stuff. Similarly, here I am trying to go and use my file two for my second feature engine. Similarly, I'll try to go and use my file 3 for my third feature engine. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to divide my whole code into small pieces, of code in here, where each file is being considered as a separate small kind of application with respect to my total application what I have in here. Okay, so here I'm trying to, this is what I'm trying to consider this as my application one with respect to my total application, or it's like a feature one. Since it's a small file, it has its own code inside, and based upon this particular code, there's a small process is going on, your feature is going on. So this particular process what I have in here, I'll be considered as my application one. Similarly, I'll be considering this as my application two, and similarly I'll be considering this as my application 3 in here. Okay, so when you have a multiple of different applications in here, now what I'll do, suppose I want to make a changes to my feature 3. In that scenario, you no need to touch these two features at all. So earlier everything is under same one single file in here. For that reason being, whatever you're trying to do, you have to stop all the features, because everything has been available within the same lines, 10K lines of code in here. So after update it and restart it, so the total application has to be stopped earlier. But now it's not the case. Why? Because you have been divided each and every feature into multiple files, multiple things in here. It's like a small piece of codes in here, where each small piece has been treated as a very the part of your main application in here. So application 1, application 2, application 3, all those things comes under your main application. Okay, so now when I want to update anything in here, you no need to stop these two applications, let them run it, let them go it. Only one thing you have to do is like what, your F3. So only F3 has to be stopped, make the changes as per the requirement, add few lines of code and restart it. So for this scenario, you no need to stop the whole application. So from maybe around 5% or 10% of the customers be impacted. But earlier, 100% of your customers has been impacted because you totally stop your whole application. But now it's not the case. Only 5 to 10% will be impacted because you're trying to update a particular small feature only, not all. Because I have divided everything into small files in here. At the same time, each application will be having their own databases as well. Okay, so because when you're trying to divide into multiple applications in here, each application will be having their own storage system, own databases in here. So instead of having a single one, I try to remove all those things now, because I don't have a I have individual codes, all these my individual codes in here, individual small application with respect to total application. For that reason being, every application has its own database in here. Okay, so something like this. For database for my feature 1, database for feature 2, database for my feature 3 in here. So this has been connected, or this has been connected to my this things. Let me pull it down. I'm about to connect it. Yeah. This has been connected to my feature 1, this has been connected to my feature 2, and this has been connected to my feature 3 in here. So similarly, what you can do, you can have your each and every feature has its own application, has its own database in here. So whenever you have different databases internally with respect to every feature or every small kind of applications in here, then the response time will be more quicker than earlier, right? Because for every feature it has its own database. Earlier we used to have only one database where it has to take care of all the request coming from my multiple features. But now every feature has its own small databases, own small storage accounts, so that they can respond it very quickly, because it's been bounded to that particular feature only. Never take care of any other feature related data what you have in here. So this is one point. And again, since you have multiple codes in here, every application starts from line 1, right? So this particular file what you see in here starts from line 1 to 1000. Similarly, this also starts from 1 to 1500. So this similarly this application will start with 1 to 1500 again, or whatever it is, the things in here. Every file starts with the first line. That means when you're trying to access the small feature in here, so this application start reading the code from first line to 1000 based upon the image or based upon the file code what you have in here. So you have multiple entry points now. Earlier you used to have only one entry point, but now since they have been divided into multiple features or multiple applications in here, I'll be having multiple entry points. So the same kind of entry points I can see now for my with respect to each and every feature what I have in here. Okay, so that is the most important, that is also one of the biggest disadvantage, that is biggest advantage with respect to my the each and every feature, dividing the things into multiple features in here like this. So this one you have different entry point in here. Similarly I'll be have different entry point for my this feature in here. Similarly I'll be have different entry point for my other features in here as well. So each and every one will be connected to a separate thing. So when you're trying to click on any one of the icon within your mobile phone for any application, it will directly point to my feature one. What are the features you're trying to go within here? So sometimes you may observe that within the same application you are able to open the application, you are able to access one or two features for sure, but you may be accessing all the features perfectly, but apart from one and two, suppose like you want to send the money, or you want to generate the report, or you want to fetch the balance, bank balance from your account in here. So all the things may be working fine, only like you probably you may not able to fetch the bank balance from your, or fetch the balance from your bank account. So only that feature may not be working. How? Because every feature is a separate kind of application in here. So all other may be working fine. So probably there's a issue with my this entry point in here. There may be connectivity lost between my feature and my entry point in here. When you, even though when you're trying to click on that particular feature in here, you may not get the answers out. You may not get the reply out of that because there's some issue with particular feature. But apart from that, all other features will be working fine in here, because each one is a separate kind of a small application which is having their own entry points in here. Okay, that is the main the advantage of dividing your whole application into small chunks of application in here. Okay, so such kind of things. So here the code what I'm trying to talk in here, which is having the file one, is nothing but called as your image with respect to my Docker. So with respect to my Docker, if I say I'm trying to change the image or I'm trying to update the image, it means that I'm trying to update the code level in here. Okay, so there will be a developer, or let me write down this in here, this one. So there will be a developer in here, and this developer what he will do, he will try to write the lines of code what you have in here. This is the code he wrote in here. So this lines of code what he wrote, so this code is also called as what? Image. Okay, so this is called as image in here. So this image, now what I want to do, now I would like to run as an application. But where can this application be run, or where this particular code can be run in here? So each application what you see in here, or each image what you have in here, this can be run in a separate space called as containers. Okay, separate space called as container. So within my Docker level, when you are trying to chunk out your, when you're trying to split your whole code into multiple small pieces in here, and every piece you want to consider as a small image or small application in here, so those things can be run only within your container. So within a container, what you have an image. What do you mean by image in here? Image is nothing but my code, what you wrote in here. Okay, the same thing. So that this image, the code what you have in here, that will be pushed to my containers. This will be put to my containers in here. So this container, what you have, will be deployed within your web application or some virtual machine so that your containers start running. So from finally, this web, what are the containers you have in here? Generally, we try to deploy it into your web application where your application will start running and can be accessed using the URL which has been produced by your web application in here. Okay, so this is how your things can handle. So this is for what? This is just for only one, only one for one feature in here. Similar to this one, I can have multiple features. So you can deploy multiple containers within the same web application. So when you're trying to say multiple containers, it means you're trying to talk about your multiple features of the things in here. So this kind of strategy called as your micro services. So microservice strategy. So you're trying to divide the whole service into small pieces in here. So micro service strategy. So I would say each application is nothing but contains the code, nothing but image, where this one running in my separate container in here. So this is my image one and this is my container one. Similar to that, I'll be having my image 2 and I'll be having my container 2. Similar to this again, I'll be having my image 3, and my container 3. So these things can be maintained or can be divided into small things as we discussed now, can be done within your Docker, image. Okay. So any questions guys up to this level? Right. So now let us try to understand what is the architecture of Docker. What is the architecture of your Docker in here? So generally, when you talk about the architecture of the Docker, mainly we have three things. One is like Docker CLI. So this is command line interface. You saw your Git CLI or you saw your Azure CLI, right? Similar to that, we can see Docker CLI. So why we need this one? So this is something we require to run the commands, in here, so that you can tell your Docker to do what you want to do. So suppose think that okay, I want to stop this particular container, or I want to delete this image, I want to remove my container, or I want to restart my container. So when you're trying to manipulate, you're trying to manage your containers in here as per your requirement. So when you want to do such kind of things, you have to say some kind of commands to my Docker. So how can I say all those things in here using my Docker CLI? So the very first step, what you see here, you have a Docker CLI in here, where with respect to my Docker CLI, I am able to go ahead and write down my commands in here. So this is my Docker CLI, where I can say something like Docker run, so one command, or similarly Docker push, or Docker images. So all these are what my Docker um, remove command or docker ps to see my container list. So all these are what my different commands which can I use, which I'm trying to tell my docker to do something in here. So who's trying to run all those things, who's trying to provide these details in here? Your end user. So we are the people who are trying to tell whatever you want to go with my docker, what you want to do with my docker in here. So this is like called as my docker CLI, where using this CLI, I would like to send my commands to my end user, to my main Docker host, what I have running in here, where my containers are, where my images are running in here. So next is like, okay, you are able to run the command, you're trying to push your command successfully, well, very good. But where are you sending all those things? So do we need to have some kind of place where you need to push your commands, right? I mean, there should be someone who can take care of your commands. Simply writing on the command prompt does like automatically will happen, or do we have someone else in between so that they can take care of my commands, what I wrote in here? Yes, of course we do have, and that is called as Docker host. The Docker host is the main one where my commands what I'm trying to run, that will be taken care of in here. So within my Docker host, I have one main, the component called as Docker daemon. Docker daemon is the one which is reading my commands from Docker CLI. Docker daemon is the one which is reading my commands from Docker CLI, reading and implementing, reading as well as implementing my commands from my Docker CLI in here. So this is very important. Docker daemon is the main one in here. So when you have Docker daemon, what it's trying to do is trying to run the commands. What are the commands generally you have in here? I want to stop my Docker, Docker stop, and a Docker restart, a Docker run. I want to push my Docker image to somewhere else. I want to list out my number of codes, images I have in here. I want to list out my things of my containers, how many containers I have in here. I want to do all those things. So who can do that? So what are these things in here? So everything can be done using your Docker daemon. Implementing will be done by Docker daemon in here. To implement that, I need a what? I need a space to save my code or images. I need a space to run my containers, where within my containers I can have my images available in here. So all these things comes under my Docker host. So along with my Docker daemon, what else I have? I'll be having my container space, where this contains all containers in here, where internally what it has images running internally, in here. So but where do you have my images? Is it like images directly come and sit in my container level in here, or do I have any images list where I can have my images separately in here? So I do have one more similar to this. I have a images space in here, where this contain all of my images what I have in here, all images at local repository. Local repository means where your Docker has been installed. Okay, so Docker host means here where you're trying to install your Docker, that will be Docker host. For example, I can download and it can install within my laptop. In that scenario, my laptop will be Docker host. Similarly, you can go ahead and install in your virtual machine. In that scenario, the virtual machine what you're trying to install, that will be Docker host. So Docker host in the sense where do you install your Docker, that will be host automatically in here. So what you contain within Docker host, I'll be having Docker daemon, which is trying to run my commands from my Docker CLI. And to run the things, what I need a container space and I need a image space in here. Where container space is something like, this contains all the containers where images are running internally. Okay, images are running internally in here. Similarly, to run your images within my containers, what I need a image space as well, where this contains all the images at my local repository, means where your Docker has been installed. So this is my second one. So if you go back in here, so I would like to create now my syntax as I told you what I have, that is been taken care by whom? My Docker daemon. So let me write down here. Docker daemon is the one where all of my syntaxes will be pushed to my Docker daemon into. So to run this, to read your syntax and run the syntax, what I told you, I need my container space. So this is my container space where I'll be having my container, where in this one I'll be having my container something like C1. Similarly, I'll be having my C2. Similarly, I'll be having my C3 in here. So these are what different containers I'm trying to have within my containers in here. So within each and every container, what you see here, there will be an image running within my container in here. So where is your image now? So images are available within the same Docker host and within the same, in here. So here I'll be having a container. Sorry, my images in here. Let me copy this and push it here. So this will be my image one in here. Similarly, I'll be having my image two. Similarly, I'll be having my image. So this is my image 2 and this is my image 3 in here. Okay, so this is what? This is nothing but my container space. Container space where I can have my container. Similarly, I can have my image space as well. Image space, or I would say this is nothing but my local repository. Local rep. Okay, this is my local repository in here, and this is my container. So here, whatever the commands received from my Docker CLI, that will be maintained. This maintains my container. Similarly, it maintains my images as well. So altogether, the total one what you see in here, so nothing but is my Docker host. This is my Docker host in here. Docker host. So this is my Docker CLI, and this is my Docker host where it contains my Docker daemon. It's trying to control my container space as well as my images what you have in here. Understood? So what are the image you have in here that will be running with respect to each and every container again in here. So the one important point to note in here is like, for example, think that okay, I don't have my the image you requested in here. For example, think okay, this is the image. I don't have my image what you requested in here. So without a image available within my local repository, what I can run in my container in here? Is mean what I can run in a container in here? It's meaningless, right? So or I can't run anything in here. So what it will do, it will try to go and search for the image in my remote repository. Okay, we'll try to save, we'll try to read the image, we'll try to create the, or it try to pull the image from my remote repository, where from there, I'll try to push my remote image to my local repository, and then it start running into my respective container in here. So for that reason being, I can have one more extra, the tire in here. There's nothing but my, or here I would say remote repository in here, remote repos in here, where this contains. So we have a remote registry or remote repository where we have a Docker hub, where this Docker hub, the remote repository is nothing but is here. I would say it's a Docker hub. Docker hub is the one where this contains all your base codes. I'll show you that sometime. So this contains all your base code. Okay, I want to run a .NET application. No problem. I have base code is something like Nginx. So Nginx is the one again. If you remember, we spoke about Nginx. We spoke about our HTTPD images, right? So Nginx. So these images, I think, but I'm trying to pull from my Docker Hub only. So this is the place where you have all these particular images readily available with your base code. As you saw, welcome to Nginx, something like that in here. So what are the image you have in here? So the image will be available within my remote location first. So no image will be there within your local machine directly. Okay. So that those things will be available within my remote location in here with my Docker Hub. So using my Docker pull command, so similar to this one, we also have Docker pull command. So using my Docker pull command, what I do, I can pull that into my local machine first. So I can pull it here first. So what are the image you have in here? That image will be downloaded. That image will be downloaded to my local repository first in here. So once it's been downloaded to my local repository in here, then from here it start running into my container. That is how it happens, guys. So, sorry. So to run the things within my container, for sure, image should be available in the local repository first, and then only my things will be running in my container in here. This is not like my image what I have in a remote registry, a remote repository. I can run this particular container directly within my container. Whatever the image you have in here, I can directly run my image within my container in my Docker host. Doesn't happen. So even though your image is not available, no problem. First of all, try to go ahead, download your image. Download the image to my local repository, and then this image will start running in your containers in here. So the third one, what you have is nothing but the third one is remote repository, or it's a Docker hub you have in here. So where this contains many base code images. Base code images means all the images which contains your some kind of code inside that. So as you saw for example, you are like Nginx, what you already saw in here. Okay, so these three are important components with respect to architecture in here. Your Docker CLI to run the commands, your Docker host, the actual one is trying to run your containers in here. Okay, with respect to your every container has its own application inside it, and these images for now you can either pull from your remote registry, or you can have your own images built within the same local repository in here. I'll tell you how can you build your own images within your local repository. So anyway, that also can be done with help of your images which has been already there within your local machine. We'll see all those things later on, no problem. Okay, but for now, this is my architecture you have in here. So this one will be coming up, downloading the things in here, and finally I can move, go ahead and run in my container in here. And every container what are running in here, the application what is running in here, you can externally you can go ahead and you can access those, the specific container what you have in here. Okay, to run the Docker commands, I'll tell you there are a few porting technique in here. We have to tag your local host with my image port number what you have in here. So you have to tag it, and then you can see what's available within each container. I'll show you that in practical later on. Okay, but for now, the only thing is like Docker CLI, push to my Docker daemon, where start running my containers in here. To run my containers, the images what you have will be pulled from a remote repository to my local repository, and from there, these images will be start running with my containers in here, so that I can go ahead and access my respect to each and every application what I have in here. Okay. So any questions, guys, with respect to my Docker architecture?
So Sham, actually here, uh, so multiple containers can be deployed in same web application.
Multiple containers can be deployed in
Same web application.
no. One web application is for one, it's a kind of one web application for one image,
Okay.
one code only. Okay.
Okay. And there is any specific limit for storage? I mean, there is any kind of storage that you can store the file with this much of storage only.
The
Is
size of
there
the
is any
file you're
limit
talking
like that?
about? The size of the file?
Yes.
No, we don't
There is
have
any
anything
limit.
such, because this is not limited. So this is for what,
Okay.
or this is for the feature you have to implement that. So to complete the total application, how many lines of code it may happen, you can do it. So only why we divide is like, so for maintenance part, it will be quite easy for us. So I don't want my customers to be impacted. For that reason being, we have this particular concept in here. Or else, earlier case is what you have, that is really more than enough. So that's how you used to work on earlier. But once your Docker concept came into the picture, so they have been trying to divide the whole things into multiple small pieces in here, so that you can upload and you can upgrade any kind of any part of your code at any point of time in here. Not a problem.
Okay. And the deployment process is different, or the
Yeah.
same thing?
Deployment
Okay.
process, I'll tell you how can you run your, that's the word, running of your image in your container.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see all these commands in manually first, and finally we'll end up with what CI/CD pipelines again.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
wherever you go, the CI/CD is must, because that is the main criteria what we are trying to Azure DevOps, because without Azure involving in here, the what is user of learning Docker in here. So finally, we'll end up with the CI/CD pipelines. And using a CI/CD pipelines, we can go and deploy your things within your web application in an automated manner. I'll tell you that. But before that, let's try to learn the things in a manual level first. Because if you do not understand the process, what's actually happening in between each and every point of step in here, then probably you may not be able to figure out the things if anything goes wrong. Okay, but that doesn't mean every point of step what we do, we'll try to go with the command lines first, and then we can automate the things directly.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
so now to have your Docker involved within your local machine here, go ahead, go to the Google level, and within my Google level, you can type in something, Docker desktop in here. So install Docker desktop. So Docker desktop is the one who is trying to download your Docker and trying to create your, your Docker host and your Docker CLI. Everything comes under picture in here. So when you click on your Docker, click on here, see Docker desktop for Windows. So you can go ahead, click on this, download your file, and you can install it. But after installing it in here, so you may see some kind of problems, like with respect to something, some you may be seeing some WSL2 error. So generally you may get such kind of errors in here. So let me try to show you that. So see here, I can see Docker WS2 installation incomplete. So generally, you may get this kind of error in here. So see, so this is the this is your error message which will be shown for you sometimes. Okay, install is incomplete, all those things in here. So what you have to do is like, when you if you get such kind of things in here, Docker desktop error, then you can see the link provided in here. This is like there is like extension, you have to go and download it and simply install it, that's it. So after doing that, automatically your things will be completed successfully in here. Okay, so what you're trying to do is that, I'm not going back. Okay, so once you get such kind of error in here, what you have to do, just go and click on the link in here and try to download it and try to install that. Automatically your error will be gone. So this is one important point to be noted in here. And this is like one. The other one, you have to enable your, see here, when I talk about my Docker in here, so this Docker generally runs in a Linux system in general. But where you're running in here currently, when you go to my command prompt, and even here, every command line what you start with Docker. Similarly, Azure CLI, every command starts with AZ. Similarly, like every what you say, like CLI, Git CLI start with Git. Similarly, here Docker CLI start with Docker in here. So when I say Docker in here and if we hit on enter, so you should be see a lot many things coming up in here. Okay, so to have this particular part done, see here, to have this done, you have to download the Docker desktop and you have to install that. So I can show you my Docker, see here, Docker desktop. So this is the icon you have in here. So this should be up and running if you want to run any Docker related stuff in here. So when you download and you after completing all the things in here, installation part, if you restart the system, that should be coming in along with your startup. For example, see here, when I say task manager, within my startup, I can see my Docker, where is the, yes, Docker desktop in here. So this will be by default will be enabled. If you want, keep as it is. So while you're starting your system, directly your Docker also will start up and you directly come to my command prompt and you can run your commands. If you feel that there's a performance issue in here and I'm not able to boot up my things very quickly, then try to stop the things wherever you require in here. So currently I'm trying to stop my Docker in here. So at the bottom, you can enable, at the same time disable. So trying to disable it, click on the Docker and try to disable it. Automatically it will be disabled mode in here. Once it's disabled, it will never start on your startup pages or starting things in here. So when you want to run anything with respect to my Docker, so what you have to do is like go to my Docker desktop, click on open. So now what will happen, the things will start running at the back end. My Docker desktop will start running. So once that has been started running and once it's up in here, then only you can able to do the things in here. See here, did not started yet. So see, I can see my container symbol in here. Starting that, do you want to start the service? Just go ahead and click on start the service in here. So all these things what's happening in here is happening within my Linux systems in general. But where you're running all these things now in my Windows system, right? So to have your things to run within your Windows system, the virtualization what you have in here to have successfully run a Windows system, you have to maintain one small thing in here, guys. You can run this particular part. See here, I can see my now Docker container started. So I can see my containers are jumping up and down. Okay, see here, my Docker, you can see small picture in here. I can see jumping up and down here. It's like an equalizer which playing along with your music generally. Okay, so one that is done, you can see something like static symbol like this. If you see a static symbol like this, it means yeah, your Docker desktop is up and running. So currently it's in a starting mode. It's trying to start the engine of your Docker. So once your Docker is up and running, automatically this particular, as I told you, that will be in starting mode. Oh, so I can see some kind of issues occurred for me. I want to check that particular part. So this issues mostly why it caught is like, because at the end, at the back end, I have to, that is what I'm trying to say in here. So whatever you run in here with the Docker runs generally in your Linux system, but where you're running in here, you're running in your Windows system in here. So to make your compatibility with your Linux system, you need some kind of virtualization at the backend so that it can convert your Linux into Windows and helps you to run your Docker commands. So where can I enable the option so that it can streamline the things, where it can support my the what is it, the commands what are running here. So see, for that, in the run button or in the search bar in here, go with your features. When you say features, I can say turn Windows feature on and off. Click on open. So here I can see Hyper-V and I can see containers. So for these two, you need to enable in here. Okay, where this one, so if you see Hyper-V, which helping you to run your virtual machines and the resources in here. I mean, like, the containers, what you're trying to do, virtualizations will come into picture. That means your Linux part can be handled via your Windows in here. So try to enable this option in here. So I have some else other problem with my system in here. For that reason being, it provide me error. But for you guys, you just try to enable this option Hyper-V and click on OK. So once you click on OK, it asks you, okay, do you want to make the changes? Done. Yes, of course I want to make the changes. So it try to show you one window open up where it's trying to search for the things and trying to make the changes as per your requirement. So after changes happen, it will ask you to restart your system. So go ahead and restart your system and try to run your Docker desktop one more time. So once that is up and running, then you can go ahead and write down your Docker commands in here. Understood, right? What I'm trying to say. So go to your, what you have to do is like go to your turn on features on and off. Try to, and for you guys, by default, this will be not enabled. You have to enable this one, Hyper-V, and try to enable your containers both. Okay, Hyper-V is the most important one. If you enable this Hyper-V, what will happen? It will try to convert your Linux system internally, and it try to support your commands what you're trying to write in your Windows system in here. Because this command prompt what you see in here, this has been available within my Windows system. So to support that, to have my things happen, to run my Docker command successfully, I need to enable my Hyper-V in here. So Hyper-V is the one which is trying to trying to provide my virtualization, which is trying to convert my Linux into my Windows internally and is able to run my command successfully in here. So you have to do this particular part, click on OK, and then try to start your Docker desktop and see whether it's up and running in here. So once it's up and running, as I showed you, so that should be in such a symbol what you see here. So static, see, I don't see my containers here. So running, jumping in here as you saw earlier, it was static. So this is how symbol you can see at the bottom as well. So once you see such a symbol, that means your Docker has been started and it's up and running. So you can go ahead with your command prompt. You don't need to connect anything in here. Just simply say Docker and write down the commands. So it will work for you. But for me, it's something we have a different option of the error. I have to troubleshoot the error, and I'll make it perfect by tomorrow for sure. Okay, so that's all you have to do from your side, guys. So we have lot many commands here. As I told you, how can we run the containers? How can you delete the container? How can you run your, build your images? How can you pull your images from your Docker hub? How can you delete your images? How can you start your Docker? How can you stop your Docker? So we'll see all those things one after one with respect to your command lines. And we'll try to understand what we have, how your Docker works in here. And slowly we'll try to run your Docker. That means we'll try to run your images within your container level in here in a manual method. So later on, we'll try to see that in your most automated way using the CI/CD pipelines. We'll see all those things one after one in here. Okay. So please go ahead, download your Docker desktop for Windows, install it. If you have any issue, as I show you the screenshot, just click on the link over there, which has been showed within your, within the error level. So the same thing, right? Where is that error? See, this is how even you can go check this particular one in here. So this is the error. Probably it may come for you after installing. So while installing, it never shows any problem here. The things will be installed. But while you're trying to start your Docker, once your things are installed, automatically it will ask you, do you want to start the Docker desktop? You can say yes. So while it's starting, this particular error message may be thrown out. So what you have to do is click on your link. So this will try to provide you a .exe file one more, download it, install it, and try to restart your Docker again. So automatically things should be working fine again. Okay. So try to follow the steps within your WSL to installation complete Windows. Try to have a note of this particular one, just in case if you have. Try to follow the steps and try to complete the installation part. And make sure your Docker is up and running again in here. So once that is completed, the other part, what you have to do is like, go to your features. Go to your features and try to enable your Hyper-V for sure. That's very, very important, guys. Hyper-V, because this is the one is helping us to convert your Linux system into a Windows system and helping us to support the commands what you write in your Windows system in here. So that's the very important. Hyper-V is also very important to enable it. So these two things, make sure you do it by tomorrow, so that you can run your Docker commands successfully and see how your things have been working in here. We'll see how it goes from there. So meanwhile, I'll try to resolve my issue what I have in here, so that I can show you from my side as well. So this is all about what I have for today, guys. So Docker in here. So we'll see how it goes from tomorrow. So I'll try to complete my things as well from my side and make sure things will be up and running by the time we have the class. So thank you guys and have a great day ahead, and we'll meet tomorrow same time with more concepts in your Docker, and we'll see the practical part of Docker now. Right guys, have a great day and bye bye.
Yeah, thank you.